right? So it's like, do you practice one-handed all the time? Do you think, what are the things that you feel like when you train one-handed or when you make plays one-handed, do you feel a little more freer? Do you feel like there's certain situations where you would, um, see a guy that maybe would benefit from doing it one way or the other? Would you switch it up and train some guys with the funnel and some without? Or would you just go, no, this is a better way to be more athletic?
Well, I think there's a million different factors, right?
Yeah, that's what's so
Field,
interesting.
surface, right?
Yes.
The type of athlete you got, how big he is.
Right.
A million different factors in there, right? What the guy can do. You got to complete the throw, right? I mean, I think you play as many balls live as you can, and you experiment and you figure that out, right? That's what you do every single day.
Okay, perfect. Now wait a second. We got all these guys filming. We didn't even start yet. We were just going over the thing.
I got to do that again.
But that's how it should flow. That's how it should flow, though. That's exactly perfect how it should flow. To funnel or not to funnel? Is there a right? Is there a wrong? Is it based on the way the guy moves, how athletic he is, what position he plays? We're talking about shortstops here, to make it simple. We're not talking about third baseman, second baseman, or first baseman. So we'll keep it simple. We're talking about how to build an elite shortstop. Would you teach him to funnel more or not? Bill, I'll have Bill Salento step up first just to see what he works with his guys on an everyday basis at Wake.
Yeah, so first of all, like I think there's a million different factors in there, right? It's about getting the guy out, right? So you're talking about 4-second increments or a little bit more than that, right? So you got to make throws in that time too. So I think you need all those tools in your toolbox. You need to be able to go one-handed. You need to be able to force a backhand and stay low whenever you want. You need to be able to move the ball in. It's about completing the throw, right? So what we try and figure out is what type of athlete he is, how he moves, what are his constraints, and what works best for that guy. And I think the best way to figure that out is you get him to play a lot of balls live, right? You put him on the clock, you put him against a runner, you're gonna figure it out real quick, right?
What's like the average speed from off the bat to first base in college? I was wondering this too because
4.2 seconds in the big leagues.
So in the big leagues, okay, this is a good metric to have. 4 points to make plays and be a legit guy out there that can play. From off the hitter's bat to first baseman glove, 4.2 seconds.
Yeah,
What do you guys train? Same?
Yes, yeah, I mean, you're talking about 4-1, your elite runner's like a 4-1, right? Your left-hand hitter, elite runner, 4-1 or better, right? 4-2 is about your average guy, right-handed hitter. 4-4 was guys like me, we didn't run it quite as good, right? But I think you got to train at all speeds. I think you got to learn how to throw the guy out that's a 4-4. I think you need to be able to train fast enough to throw out the guy that's a 4 flat. I think you need to be able to vary in there, right? And I think you need to practice that daily.
It's interesting because I almost feel like at the college level, players run harder.
They're faster.
They like the guys in the big leagues that are just meant to just do damage. If they roll over, they might not be busting and burning down the line, you know. And so maybe the pace is a little bit different, and maybe how shortstops assess runner speeds at those levels is different, right? So I was saying, Duke, what do you think? And let's give Duke a mic, just to mic him up. We'll come back around. Duke, with all the guys you work with at usually like the high school, junior high school level, right? And this guy works with a ton of infielders. What do you feel like if a kid comes to you and he's fielding everything with two hands? He's the kid that he was trained by a guy that everything was like, get in front, let me see your head down, here, funnel, replace your feet and go, right? What do you do?
I think a lot of that stuff is super important, but I think that pocket awareness, glove awareness is even more important, right? If you have a guy that every time he goes to catch the ball, he's not catching it in the pocket to be able to make the exchange, and he's bobbling stuff, those guys are more apt to want to use two hands on everything, because everything either pops out or it's rolling around. So you find those guys being more of the ones that are fielding the ball with two hands. So getting them to do a lot of one-handed flips, picks by themselves, you know, so they're actually like working forehands and backhands off the ground.
Yeah.
Gets them to really feel, where am I catching the ball? So now when I do field it with my one hand, I can make a fast exchange and like Bill said, get the outs there.
So you just did, you like the exchange and
That was sick.
That was super sick, Johnny.
Like, what?
Bro, you ain't seen this guy. You ain't seen nothing, man.
I see him all the time.
This guy's hands. Bro, if you're talking about hands, there's nobody at his current age that I'll put
Don't lose sight of him. He just went like this.
So that's something, you know, we do teach all the skills.
Yeah.
Like Bill said, you have to know, I got to go through that and one-handed, or it's the routine and that's hugging the floor. There's no reason to do this on a ball that's rolling at you, that's hugging the floor. And that's where so many kids get into that mode of, go get it, get your hands in it. That's not every ball that you're doing that with. You know, so if it's hugging the ground, you're going to take it and move with it. You know, if it's going to hop in front of you, now you're going to pick and move through it. So it's how you move your feet and how you use your hands. So Bill said it perfectly. You have to do everything.
So
Two-handed. Sometimes you funnel, sometimes you pick, sometimes you do it all.
So last question for you is, are you teaching guys to try and get in front of balls as much as they can? Or are you saying, no, I would rather you have a better line of sight or whatever and take your angles better?
That's a good question. The younger guys, I try to get in front more because of the fact that if they're afraid of the ball on that backhand, they'll slow down just to backhand it. They won't bust to get where they can get to. The older guys, no, don't get in front of everything. That ball right here that I can work my backhand through puts me in a way better position than getting in front of it and fielding off my right side and then having to shove that 4.2. Now it's a 4.5 and he's safe.
Awesome stuff. That's Duke Baxter, guys. Zone Sports. Follow him up. This guy's always putting out great stuff. He shares all kinds of tips. If you want to talk about infielding, talk to this guy. Let's transfer over to Ronnie Burnick real quick. Just that mic. Guys, I know Ronnie here for a long time. He's come out and helped coach with me. He's worked with my infielders. He's worked with my hitters. The guy runs a place, Hot Corner, with he had the Mack brothers, a couple of first rounders and stuff at his facility. And I was going to ask you, we were talking the other day about how many balls that you see in the big leagues are fielded on the run. Yeah, I'll let you hold the valet glove. How many you feel plays are fielded and made on the run? Right? We were talking about that. And how many you feel like are good where you set your feet and you can make a strong throw? What do you think?
Well, we talked about even at the college level too. We feel like because they're running harder, the college level's probably played more on the run, even more than Major League Baseball, because they're not busting out of the box nearly as much. So we talked a lot about being able to actually be versatile, even on your backhand throwing on the run, on your forehands throwing on the run, and really working on reading the hop rather than working on exactly being in the right footwork. Because if I get a good hop, I'm athletic as a shortstop, I'm going to be able to make throws on the run and get to that 4-2, under 4-2 to be able to throw guys out. Plus, you figure the shortstop's one of the more athletic positions on the field. So if I can get a guy to throw on the run and move while he's making plays, those plays are going to happen a little more crisp, a little bit faster. That's something that we teach a lot at our place, especially even hop reading, which I think is a big thing. I know at the major league level they're so good at it, but I think in the college level, hop reading, being able to throw on the run, unbalanced throwing, I think is what makes that position so good and can allow them to make plays in faster times rather than forcing themselves to get themselves set to make a play every single time.
I like that. And the other thing I wanted to ask you was, if you have a player, an infielder that comes in for work, and he's making all the plays, like he's making the plays, but it doesn't look to you the way that you would teach it. Do you say to the athlete, it's going to get, I know it's going to get harder, you're not going to be able to do this later, so let's cut this out now? Or do you allow him to fail at what he's doing and let the speed just run him over and then try to correct it later? Or do you try to make more deliberate kind of changes in those guys?
Yeah, I think adding more things to the toolbox is important, right? So being able to do more as an infielder is very important. So I don't like getting rid of anything. I like to figure out what am I the best at and really go and attack those, but then try to figure out what can I improve as I'm working on the stuff I'm good at, right? So if I'm not so good at my backhand, maybe it's because I'm forcing myself to get my feet set when I'm probably better at reading a hop out in front and throwing that ball on the run, right?
Yeah.
So figuring out what I struggle with, and then how can I make the game, how can I speed the game up and work faster than forcing myself to get to a position. And I think that's what the Latin players do really well, right? They allow the game to come to them, and they just work with what the hop is, versus where I think with us, we force ourselves to set our feet, get in front of the baseball, rather than allowing an athlete to be an athlete, which I think is the most important piece.
It's interesting. I think a lot of the times in America, with so many facilities and there's so much individualized stuff, and a lot of guys like that because they'll say, like, for instance, I'm from the Northeast. He's from the Northeast.
Yeah.
All winter long, when the guys are in DR and Florida taking regular ground balls, we're doing little picks off the turf, and we're doing like glove presentation and doing all these little things. And so the fundamental foundations of it, I feel we have, but the in-game adjustments and the flow and basically the instincts and the reads and the first steps, I think they sometimes get us on that.
That's the biggest piece. I think flow at the end of the day, athleticism, flow, working with the speed of the game, I think that allows us to be fast, work on our toes, right? Instead of forcing and creating adaptations that aren't going to play at higher levels, right? I mean, if you're playing the infield at a super high level, especially left side of the infield, you have to have good footwork, you have to have good instincts, but allowing them to have those instincts, I think, are the biggest piece, instead of forcing them to make plays, right? If an 11-year-old kid has good footwork and can throw on the run, let's allow him to do that. Don't take that away from him, because that's probably what's going to make him very good as he gets older, right?
I like it, dude.